One of the interesting things about human nature is how flexible that our needs and wants are. And of course, there's the old Chinese proverb, right, of the house. Someone who had a house that was too small, and or parable, maybe that's not a proverb anyway. And so they filled it up with animals, and then once they got all the animals back out, and then of course the house was nice and felt nice and large to the occupant. And it's kind of interesting. I was walking through a neighborhood today and observing how small many of the houses appeared to be. And it's an older section of town, and considering how that the I guess the average size of the houses nowadays have gone up quite a bit, and how we think we need a certain amount of space, right? Now, I would say that currently our family probably lives in a home that's probably on the small side of what's culturally normal, probably for the number of people in our family. Fortunately, so far they're not all giant people. There's some little people involved, so that makes it easier. But we hope to expand into a larger house over time. But it is interesting, when you think about, say living in an RV compared to living in a 3 or 4 thousand square foot home, which our house is smaller than that currently. But there's this whole spectrum, right, of like what you want and need, and especially what you think you need, right? There's a whole spectrum of that, and whereas when your expectations are reset, I think, and or if you're just used to doing with less, it's not a big deal to have less living space per person. So I recall before my parents added a basement to their home. We lived in a house that I would say it was pretty small, but also the layout was a little bit quirky. Kind of one of those older houses that had kind of been added onto and so forth. But yeah, probably we lived in a house that was really pretty small for the six of us, I guess, at that time. Um, but I mean, as a kid, I don't know that we thought about it being small. I mean, hey, there was one bedroom. There were four of us boys. Like, that was fine. We often slept out in the living room on the floor. You know, just I'm not sure why. Maybe it was fun or whatever. But sleeping on the carpet with a blanket and a pillow, that was great. No problem. Didn't matter. Of course, on one time my brother put a blanket over the gas um, stove while while he was sleepwalking. Woke up the next morning, I think it was, to see large melted areas in the blanket. So we were very fortunate not to be incinerated overnight. But anyway, what you're used to has a major impact on your expectations for what you think you need to have. And it's kind of interesting to think about, when as a kid, especially if you're like, let's say if your parents have become relatively well-to-do, maybe before you've grown up, and so you've kind of gotten used to their lifestyle. And then if you go out on your own and you don't have, you're not a trust fund baby, and maybe you haven't prioritized making a lot of money in your teenage years, and so you're kind of, broke as a joke, as Myron Golden likes to say, and out living life. It's kind of interesting. It's easy to have the expectation that your lifestyle has to be at that same level as what your parents are, but in reality, I mean, they've been potentially working towards that for 20, 30 years at that point, whereas you're just kind of getting a fresh start. So um, sometimes I think about it, like these things that we need and want, like, do we really need them? Like, we could do with a lot less if we really, really had to, right? So anyway, what about you? Do you approach life from a minimalistic standpoint, or is it important to you to have all the things?